in stock. Many of these Lamoille Valley Chevy pre-owned trucks and SUVs are certified pre-owned that come with a better-than-new 100,000-mile warranty on top of a guaranteed minimum trade allowance of $3,000. So get to the push it, pull it, or tow it sale happening right now at Lamoille Valley Chevy, just past Stowe and Morrisville in the beautiful town of Hyde Park, Vermont. And remember, at Lamoille Valley Chevy, we know price matters.
The Brady Farkas Show is produced and funded by WDEV and the Radio Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to WDEV@radiovermont.com.
The energy. The guy told me I was no spring chicken anymore, and that's why my ankle was still hurting. I'm 33, not 133. The passion. The Red Sox handling of Xander Bogaerts is a complete organizational failure. The opinions on all your favorite teams. No, not this year, but it's next year where Bill Belichick ends up on the hot seat. This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com. What's up, everybody? Brady Farkas Show at it here on a Tuesday on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. We're up until 6:45 today. Then it's high school basketball as we've got girls hoops between People's Academy and Montpelier. Brent Curtis on the coverage there. So we'll get out of here about 6:40 today. But plenty to get to in that hour and 10 minutes or so. We'll talk for the final time this season with Bob Socci, the voice of the Patriots. I spoke earlier today with Coach Brennan on UVM Hoops. Have some thoughts from him. You'll hear in a little bit on the not that interesting college football title game from last night. You can get in, as always, on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line. That's 802-585-3026. Your locally owned Napa stores in Waterbury and Morrisville. You can also watch us like our guy Joseph is on Facebook Live and YouTube Live as well.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go. The opening thoughts on the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and by Swanton Lumber. They are Vermont's most complete locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. Bad news for your Boston Red Sox. Trevor Story out for a indefinite period of time. Not the news you want 5 weeks before spring training. Not the news you want after you've already lost Xander Bogaerts in the middle infield in free agency. Not the news you want after some renewed optimism after signing Rafael Devers. Not the news you want, period. Here was the release that came from the Red Sox today about 3:30 this afternoon. Trevor Story had internal brace surgery on his right elbow yesterday. So it is a internal bracing procedure of the right ulnar collateral ligament. That's the Tommy John one. So Jeff Passan of ESPN described this procedure as a modified Tommy John surgery, said it usually takes guys 4 to 6 months to come back from this. And Chaim Bloom, speaking to the media today, said he doesn't even bank on Story being back in all this season. So Bloom said, now maybe he's just trying to temper expectations, or maybe there's a real fear that Story could be out the entirety of the season. But it looks like best case scenario, we don't see Story until the end of May. Worst case scenario, Story misses the entire season. With 5 weeks to go before spring training, this is absolutely horrible news for the Boston Red Sox. Now, I have told you all along that depth is one of the biggest weaknesses on this team, and that this team cannot afford to have guys either not perform or get hurt. And here you go. This is case in point. This is example number one. This is really, really bad news. The Red Sox are and have been a if team. If this goes well, if that goes well, if that happens, then maybe they could be good. If Kike's healthy, if Paxton's healthy, if Sale pitches right, if Casas develops, if Story is healthy. Well, now the if on Story is not happening. And the Red Sox are far worse off for it. For a team that was already way up against it heading into 2023, this seems like a just catastrophic blow. A team that could ill afford a blow of this size just got one. The Boston Red Sox were already slated, I think, to be one of the worst teams in the American League in 2023. If Story is out for all of the season or most of the season or half the season, they will continue to profile to be one of the worst teams in the American League in 2023. You look at the facts right now on the Red Sox, and they are not good at this point. You have already lost Xander Bogaerts and JD Martinez from last year's offense. And now you throw in losing Trevor Story for a good portion of the season at least. Story is a guy who's supposed to pick up the slack lost by Xander Bogaerts, and he's not going to be here and healthy enough to be able to do it. That's a problem. It's a Red Sox team that also got much worse defensively by this news. I know defense isn't fun or sexy to talk about when we talk about baseball, but it's a really important thing. You look at a Red Sox pitching staff that we don't have much faith in. So how do you help a poor defense or a poor pitching staff? Well, you have a great defense behind them. Remember, this shift is going away this year or being heavily altered. So there's going to be more balls put in play. There's going to be a premium on guys who can field those balls. And now Trevor Story's not there to do it. He is an elite defender, and he's not going to be there for some or all of the season. That is a huge loss. And now the Red Sox not only have a Xander Bogaerts hole in the middle of the infield, they have a Trevor Story hole in the middle of the infield. I mean, you look at it now, the Red Sox are out a shortstop and a second baseman heading into 2023. I mean, the goal for the Red Sox was a healthy, that Yoshida and Justin Turner and a healthy Kike and a healthy Story could really do things for this team. But now you've lost another middle of the order bat, and you've lost positional flexibility. You've lost two starting star caliber middle infielders. None of this is good. None of this is good. The thought was that you could replace Xander Bogaerts at least to a degree with Trevor Story, and now he's not here to be able to do that. He is not here to be able to do that. Napa Morrisville 802-585-3026. The Napa Morrisville Napa Waterbury text line is at that number, and frankly, there's still some things I need to know here. I need to learn the full story. Why is this happening right now? Why is this happening? Why is this surgery happening on January 9th and not on October 9th? I am confused here. Trevor Story has had an elbow issue. That elbow issue is known. He played through that elbow issue last year. This is not something new that just sprouted up on him. Okay. So Story, I guess what the story is that Trevor Story played all of last season and hoped that rest would heal it, and then it, flared up on him. I guess that's the story, but he has known this is an issue about himself. Why not address it preemptively? I mean, we've known about Story's elbow issues for months now. I go back May 6th of last year. We talked with Buster Olney of ESPN, and here's what he talked about Story's recruitment and free agency.
I don't know necessarily if the other offers were comparable, and I would say this. His agents were swimming upstream against the perception that he's got a major elbow issue. That at some point, that it might require Tommy John surgery. That was the perception of a lot of other teams. And so actually, when you think about that, and you think about the fact he signed so late, $140 million, pretty good deal.
I mean, so Buster's telling us last May that teams are well aware of Story's issues. Story is well aware of Story's issues, and Story played through Story's issues. He knows that this is a bothersome thing to him. Why not just try to get it done? Look, If this was going to cost him this season, then I guess I understand waiting, right? You see that all the time. Pitchers say, I got to get Tommy John if this doesn't work, so I might as well wait 2 months. It's not that big a difference. If Story can be back in 4 to 6 months, I would have rather gotten this done in October than get it done in January. So that way I'm back by anywhere between February and April. Maybe Story knows it is worse than that we're being led on to be. But even if you needed Tommy John, there's a designated hitter in the American League. He could have at least come back and hit this season. So now I need to know more about the timing of all of this. I need to know more about the timing of all of this. 802-585-3026. Travis says, not to add insult to injury here, but top prospect Jeter Downs can play shortstop. Oh, wait, he's gone. Yes, he's gone. And, he couldn't hit, really. That was the issue on Jeter Downs. We will talk in the 6 o'clock hour about what the Red Sox can do, but the options are not pretty. The free agent options at shortstop are not pretty. The free agent options at second are not pretty. The trade options out there are a little bit better, but this is not a good situation. This is a Red Sox team that could ill afford problems, and we're having problems, and we haven't even gotten to Fort Myers yet. We're not even a month away from the first spring training game yet. And here you are. You're out your incumbent shortstop and your replacement shortstop for Xander Bogaerts. I mean, look, I'm going to be as invested in the Red Sox as anybody because they're on our station and because I love the sport of baseball. So I'm going to be interested no matter what. I was interested in 2020 when the Sox were awful. I was interested last year when the Sox were awful up until about the end of September, middle end of September, when the only thing keeping me around was Tristan Casas. But this feels like a long season ahead for the Red Sox. It felt like that anyways. And now you take out Trevor Story, your most athletic defensive player, a guy that could steal 15 bases for you, a guy that could have hit 30 home runs, your big ticket item of free agency last year. Did you take that out? You are very much swimming against it here. Joe in Essex says a broader issue is that the front office appears to not care very much in general. Why is that? I assume you mean about the product as opposed to Trevor Story in general. The front office cares. Trust me. The front office wants to win. I believe that Chaim Bloom and Brian O'Halloran, they want to win. No doubt. But John Henry and company want to win also, but they want to win in a different way. They want to win in a more modern way, a cheaper way, a more prospect-driven way. I do believe that Chaim Bloom has his hands tied on certain things. So why doesn't ownership care is the problem, although ownership did step up to get Rafael Devers. So I think the front office wants to win, but I think that they are being hamstrung by ownership in a lot of cases. Are there contract clauses when an injury is known? Can owners ask for periodic updates and physicals? Well, you have to pass a physical every year to come to spring training, I believe. Right? You have to pass an intake physical every year. And as for Story's elbow, the Red Sox, they approved Story's medicals last year. So they approved Story even with these issues. They signed him. Look at the Carlos Correa situation. Teams, if they don't buy your medicals, they will clearly hold up a deal or cancel a deal entirely. So the Red Sox didn't do that. They signed Story knowing the issues. So that is on them. They clearly with their medical team said, okay, we'll try the rest and relaxation method this offseason. That is on them as well, rather than just saying get something done right away. I got to know the timing on this, because if it's truly a 4 to 6 month recovery, if I'm Story, I'm getting it done at the end of last season. If Story's thinking I'm out for the year the minute I go under the knife, then I get waiting. And that's what I don't know yet. Does Story think that he is out for the season? Ralph says, I guess players don't want to get surgery until they have to. Yeah, well, that's true. That's for sure true. Right? Mac Jones didn't want that tightrope surgery. And I get players wanting to have control over their bodies. I absolutely do. The question remains, how long is Story out for? Because that's the disconnect. When I hear 4 to 6 months, I'm thinking, let's start that clock as early as possible. If Story told me Tommy John surgery is like, it's Tommy John surgery or nothing, well, then I guess I get wanting to wait to see if you could avoid that. But remember, you can also hit now under Tommy John surgery. Like Bryce Harper had Tommy John surgery, and he's going to be able to hit, we think, by June. He got his surgery done in November. He's going to be able to hit for the Phillies by June or so. That could have been Story. Texter Joe in Essex, why is John Henry being so frugal? How much time you got? I would just say he's being frugal because they've won a lot already, and now he sees other teams winning cheaper, and he wants to do that. It's a business to him now where it wasn't necessarily before. I got to answer the phone. We've got Bob Socci, the voice of the Patriots, here coming up.
The old names are gone.
Brady takes the snap, backpedals, fires left, catch made by White, turns to the inside, dives across the goal line. Touchdown, Patriots!
But there's new hope in Foxborough.
Stevenson with a great run to the outside. Still on the go. Come on, Andre Stevenson. Trying to go wire to wire. Second touchdown.
For the latest on the Patriots, we talk to the voice of the Patriots, Bob Socci, on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
All right, Bob Socci, the voice of the New England Patriots, has been with us every single Tuesday of this NFL season. Hard to believe we are at the end of it here. Since the Patriots are done, this is our last talk with Bob. And Bob, we appreciate you being with us every week. And one more time to go. How are you? Thanks for being with us as always.
I'm good, Brady. Good to be with you one last time. I'm sorry it is the last time. I was hoping we could have at least a couple of more conversations. But alas, here we are.
Yeah, I was hoping so as well. Let me just ask you about the environment Sunday in Buffalo. You've called a lot of big games. You've called a lot of meaningful games in your career. Where did Sunday rank for you in terms of just game environments?
Well, it's always a great environment in Buffalo. I mean, the fans are always charged up, and they can be hostile when the Patriots arrive at the stadium, whether the Bills are in first place dominating the division as they've been the last few years, or especially when the Bills were looking up at the Patriots in the early part of my tenure with the team. And the atmosphere there I've always enjoyed and appreciated as much as any really around the league. I've always said, to the surprise of many, that Buffalo's been one of my favorite places to call a game. Now, it was as enthusiastic, and the fans were certainly energized before that game, as they typically are, but it was different. There was a different feel, obviously. And the signage, the T-shirts, the pins in the crowd, by the crowd, people adorned by the number 3 and the heart-shaped signs for Damar Hamlin all around Highmark Stadium, outside the stadium as well. I took a walk around the stadium beforehand as well. And there was a bit of an edge off that typical hostility when we arrived. There was still some of it from Bills fans. They made their feelings known a bit for the Patriots, but the heaviness that we all felt, I think, early in the week was lifted, but still there was a bit of a different spirit, about the crowd. And it was symbolized by, like I said, the signs and the shirts that they wore and so forth. And really the same thing on the field with the players and the staffs of both teams, from equipment managers to the head coach of the Patriots wearing the, Love for Damar number 3 T-shirt. And a lot of the Bills players were wearing caps and shirts as well with the number 3 on them. And then, of course, they took the field in their uniforms with the number 3 on it. And after the kickoff return by Nyheim Hines, it was really like a lid lifter. The place exploded in enthusiasm and noise. And then it went into a lull. I mean, one of the things we talked about before the game is that the emotion at some point is going to wane. And the Patriots got tied at 7-7. They fell behind. They got even again. And there was this long period where it was very quiet in there. But by that point, it was also back to football. So it was different. It was again, a scene like none that I've experienced going to an NFL stadium. But I think once we got into the game, it was just football. And then, of course, the crowd erupted later on.
I've made it clear all season long to you and to the listeners that I am not the biggest Mac Jones fan. But that said, I do not think that Mac Jones is terrible by any stretch. Now, the red zone interception was terrible. But that said, I actually thought it was one of Mac's best games of the year overall, given the stakes, given the environment, given the emotion. A couple of turnovers late in desperation time, which I don't really hold against him. I thought Mac, for a final showing of the year, I thought he acquitted himself pretty well heading into the offseason. Did you see it the same way?
Well, I did, but I also think that the offense,
yes, as a whole,
from the play calling and the operation of the offense, everything was better. And I don't think there's any coincidence that Mac's performance was that much better. Now, I think that when you look at the 3 interceptions, I would agree with you. The last couple were with the Patriots trying to desperately get back, having fallen behind at one point by a couple of scores, and then a second time by a couple of scores after they pulled within 28-23. But that throw down the left sideline ultimately results in a 4-point swing because the Bills turn it over 2 plays later. The Patriots kick the field goal, and then on the ensuing kickoff after they've briefly taken the lead, Hines runs back a second kickoff for a touchdown. That's a play where I haven't heard it explained definitively. I thought when the ball came out of his hand and it looked like, based on Aguilar's reaction, it was a back shoulder throw. But obviously Mac let him down the sideline. White picks it off at the 2. And instead of going in for a touchdown, eventually again in the exchange of possessions, you settle for the field goal and you've got a 3-point lead that lasts about 15 seconds, if that. I think the thing about it to me, though, is like there's so much in that play that symbolizes as a microcosm of the Patriots' story this year. Again, threatening deep in the opponent's territory, coming away with less than they should have had. A disconnect between a wide receiver and the quarterback. The quarterback playing well, but then there's a stumble in that situation. I thought it was also ironic that he connected with Devontae Parker for a touchdown pass on one of those proverbial 50-50 balls. Mm-hmm. You go back to the very first drive of the season between the Patriots and the Miami Dolphins. And while the Pats, I thought, did a good job against the Bills defensively for a large part of that game, eventually Buffalo, as we expected them to do, got some big plays, was able to pull away with a working margin, and the special teams for the Patriots betray them. So I think you can look at all those different areas and say, yeah, they played better in this way or that way, but it was a lot of what we saw all season long, ultimately leading to their demise in close game after close game.
Bob Socci, voice of the Patriots, all season long. He's been with us here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. The offseason conversation for every team is always bountiful, and it will be no different for the Patriots. So let's address some kind of housekeeping stuff right now. The Pats will have the number 14 pick in the draft, and I think it's going to be really interesting in that I think that, almost everything is on the table. Like, no, they're not going to take a punter or a kicker, but by and large, I think there's a lot of different positions they could go with. What would you see as kind of the biggest need on this team right now when you look at it from an early first-round draft pick selection?
Well, I think the most logical choice for the Patriots at this point at number 14 is a tackle, best tackle available, because they certainly will have a vacancy at one of those tackle positions. Connor McDermott did a very admirable job, I think, filling in at the right tackle spot. But you've got Isaiah Wynn, of course, who finished the year on injured reserve, really a wasted season and a wasted salary, as it turns out, with Isaiah coming back on his 5th-year option, in and out of the lineup for periods, and then finally down and out for good by the end of the season. I can't see him coming back, so I think the Patriots definitely need to address the offensive tackle position. Now, if there's a better cornerback, for example, that's available at number 14, I could see them going there. I think one of the things they really need defensively, despite is the consistency, I think, of the defense overall. Now, they didn't beat elite quarterbacks. They beat Jared Goff and the Lions, and as it turned out, he was probably the best quarterback that the Patriots defeated this year. But I think the defense more than acquitted itself all season long. But I think the one thing that they do miss is that so-called lockdown cornerback, a bigger, longer cornerback who can shut down a leading receiver, or at least limit a leading receiver. You're not going to shut down Justin Jefferson. You're not going to shut down Stephon Diggs, but you got to make it more difficult than I think that those guys experienced against the Patriots. And Jonathan Jones is a good player. I hope he's back for the Patriots. But again, they were asking him, I think, to occupy a role that was better suited for the Stephon Gilmore type, J.C. Jackson, when he took over for Stephon as the Patriots' number one cornerback before this season.
It's certainly possible, and we heard the reports yesterday that Gerard Mayo is once again a hot commodity on the coaching circuit, either for defensive coordinator positions officially or for head coaching jobs. So it seems that there's a plausibility that Gerard Mayo leaves. If that happened, could we see, you think, Matt Patricia just slide back over to defensive coordinator, which would then open up the OC spot, which so many people want?
Brady, I think we're probably going to see changes on the offensive staff regardless. And I don't think that, Matt Patricia's next role for the Patriots is defensive coordinator, as long as Bill Belichick is the head coach with Stephen Belichick. The guy on the sideline has been calling plays defensively. So I think you could point to this season with Stephen and Gerard Mayo collaborating. It'd be hard to say with the results they got, even if his name wasn't Belichick, that he didn't deserve to come back and be the play caller defensively for the team. I know that, a lot of people might take exception with that statement, but I don't see Patricia sliding back over to that spot. Again, if Gerard departs, I think if Mayo leaves for a defensive coordinator spot, though, that's I would think something that would be cause for some concern, certainly a lot of disappointment in Patriot circles. I mean, this is a guy that is a beloved Patriot. He's a great Patriot player, turned coach. I think well respected, not only from Bill Belichick and the players that he coaches and the rest of his coaching staff, but certainly at the highest level of the organization and ownership. And Gerard Mayo is a tremendous leader and a guy that I think is extremely impressive and very polished, is anyone who listens to him understands. He's very bright, he's very smart. I think he's got a great coaching future in the NFL. And he may even have a longer-term future as an NFL executive if he desires that at some point someday. So I think that, losing him in any capacity, but especially if it's not for a head coaching position with another organization, would be a huge blow. And I don't just mean in terms of the brain drain. I think, for the Patriots to lose one of their own like that to another organization to be a coordinator, that'd be hard to take, and I would imagine for some.
Bob, what's up on the off-season to-do list for you? The past few years, you've run the Boston Marathon, so what are we doing this off-season?
Well, I'm not running any marathons, I'll tell you that. I'll probably do some teaching, hopefully locally at one of the colleges, and try to do what I can in the broadcasting world to add to the play-by-play that I do for the Patriots, and do a dad's duty. Generally take care of the to-do list on a daily basis as much as I can, and dive into writing a bit more this coming off season. I enjoyed writing when I could this past year, and we'll look to do some more of it.
Bob Socci, voice of the Patriots. Sadly, it's going to be 8 months until we hear him again on these airwaves, but we'll look forward to it already. So Bob was with us every Tuesday during the NFL season, kind and gracious with his time, made time for us every week. And Bob, we appreciate you doing this for us, and our listeners appreciate it as well. And thank you very much for all you've done for this show. So we'll have a great off season. You deserve it. And maybe we'll bother you again in the off season, but we'll certainly give you some time to decompress, and we'll do it again soon, I'm sure.
All right, let's talk again soon, Brady. Really appreciate our conversations. Enjoy your work overall, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak to your listeners in Vermont. I love Vermont. I hope to get back up there. It's going to be off season before too long, maybe even this weekend. And I want to thank First Republic as well, the brewery that was so kind to send me a care package over the holidays. All the best. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Bob Socci, the voice of the Patriots. Yeah, hooked Bob up with a little bit of a care package there from First Republic Brewery over in Essex. So appreciate them helping us, help us get Bob on the show. A lot of good stuff there, from the environment in Buffalo this week to the environment in Buffalo every time the Patriots play there. Bob says it's one of his favorite places to call a game. Also, good stuff on the draft. We're certainly going to have more on what Bob said there coming up later this week. So we will talk about, we will recap Bob's interview appropriately. What we will do is we'll step aside. We'll get the CBS News update, and I'll talk to you more about UVM men's basketball. They are 2-1 inside America East play, but there's something that really bothers me and worries me about this team. I'll tell you what that is next on the Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV AM and FM.
This is WDEV, Vermont's news station, owned and operated by the Radio Vermont Group. From the top of Sugarbush, 96.1 FM, WDEV Warren and Waitsfield, 96.5 W243 Barrie, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, along with our founding station, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury Montpelier, streaming at WDEVradio.com. 91 years of serving Vermont, the friendly pioneer, WDEV.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
I'm Monica Ricks in New York. Severe storms have now killed at least 15 people in California, and floodwaters keep rising. CBS's Steve Futterman is there.
It has been a tough 24 hours. Most of California is now facing potential flooding. Barry Parker is with the Ventura County Fire Department.
We've had multiple people who were stranded and needed to be rescued. We've had large mud and debris flows. We have rivers that jump their banks.
This woman lives in a mudslide area.
We've been watching for the last several days to make sure that the ground is stable and that the retaining walls aren't overtopping with mud.
And with more rain in the forecast, it's likely to get worse.
Republicans want answers on classified documents bearing President Biden's name.
The new Republican chairman of the House Oversight Committee says his panel will investigate the matter. Kentucky Congressman James Comer has written the White House seeking more details about what was found at the Penn Biden Center and who might have had access to it. In a separate letter to the head of the National Archives, Comer suggests political bias at that agency because it didn't alert Congress or the public to the Biden documents the way it did disclose the fact that documents marked classified were being held by former President Trump.
That's CBS's Stephen Portnoy. Former Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg has been sentenced to 5 months in jail for dodging taxes. But his attorney, Nicholas Gravanti, thanked the Trump family today.
He is grateful to them for their continued support throughout this difficult chapter of his life.
Ukrainian troops will start training on a new missile system here in the U.S. CBS's Kami McCormick.
The training on this missile defense system can take several months, but that removes Ukrainian soldiers from the battlefield. Pentagon spokesman Brigadier General Pat Ryder.
The longer those troops are off the line, they're not actually engaged in combat. And so trying to work with the Ukrainians to see what we can do to accelerate the training timeline.
Ukraine's president believes the system will make a significant difference in his country's defenses against the Russian invasion.
A background check missed a trooper's red flags before he killed several people in Virginia.
The oversight happened in 2020, a year before Austin Edwards kidnapped a 15-year-old girl and killed 3 members of her family in California. Edwards had spent time in a psychiatric facility in 2016. He posed online as a 17-year-old boy while communicating with the 15-year-old girl in California. Edwards killed her family last year after she stopped responding to his messages. Edwards died by suicide during a shootout with police. The girl was never harmed. Jim Crisula, CBS News.
The Mega Millions drawing just hours away. Jackpot's up to $1.1 billion. This is CBS News.
Nobody should have to pay for one-size-fits-all insurance coverage. Liberty Mutual customizes your car and home insurance so you only pay for what you need. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Lots of businesses are hiring right now, offering great benefits, but there's one perk that surpasses them all.
Ski for free!
At Mad River Glen, you can work full or part-time and
ski for free!
Following positions are now open: parking lot attendants, lift operators, ticket checkers, line cooks. Enjoy discounts with local partnering businesses at Mad River Glen, including reciprocal skiing privileges. Fill out an application online at madriverglen.com/employment.
It's it's 1, 2, 3 to start 2023 at Lamoille Valley Ford. Here's Rick the Kid.
We want to thank all our customers and friends for helping us reach our goal in the countdown to 4,000 vehicles sold last year, continuing our run as Vermont's highest volume Ford dealer. Now, kick off the new year. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3 in January 23 at Lamoille Valley Ford. On any in-stock new Ford Escape, Edge, or Explorer, you can take $1,000 off MSRP, and Lamoille Valley Ford will double that discount to $2,000 on any new F-150 in stock. Plus, during January, Lamoille Valley Ford will discount any pre-owned vehicle on our lot, including our huge selection of certified pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs, $3,000. At Lamoille Valley Ford, we have by far the largest inventory of new Fords in Vermont, along with a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles, and we have instructed our entire team to make deals and earn your business.
Woo! You heard Rick. You don't have to settle for an ugly vehicle, and you definitely don't need to pay more than you should. So drive Route 14, 50, or 60 to Hardwick, where it's as simple as 1, 2, 3 to start 2023 at Lamoille Valley Ford.
Do you want to learn more about the free market perspective on important public policy issues affecting you, your work, and your community? I'm Bill Sayre, and I hope you'll do so by joining me in conversation with Vermont opinion leaders as we discuss how best to make Vermont an ever better and more affordable place to live and work. Common Sense Radio with Bill Sayre, weekdays 11 till noon.
Make your opinion heard by texting onto the Brady Farkas Show at 802-585-3026.
This is former NFL wide receiver Keyshawn Johnson, and now we're back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV Radio and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. High school basketball coming up about 6:45 today. Brent Curtis will be on the call. Girls hoops between People's Academy and Montpelier. Texter says, we need to send Bob Socci a Vermont care package. I'm from Cabot. We'll send him cheese and my own maple syrup and honey. That would be awesome. That would be incredible. If you really want to do that, I will make sure Bob gets it. You bring it to the station. I will send it off to him. I have Bob's address. And I want to make sure I highlight this. And I do this every time a season ends and one of these conversations come to a close. I just think it's worth sharing. Bob Socci came on every year or every Tuesday this week for free. 18 weeks of the NFL season. Came on every single one. Did not miss, except for last week when I was on vacation. Did not miss one. Actually, no, we still played it last week. I had COVID last week. We played it. And the week I was on vacation, I think I did the talk for Nick Mumley. 18 weeks, Bob Socci came on every week for free. That is the broadcaster for the 6-time world champions coming on in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Northern New York and asking for no money to do it. That is, trust me, if you've been around this business now as long as I have, that is a rarity. Okay, I've seen people who were no good at their job asked to be paid to come on. I've seen people who were brand new to their job asked to be paid to come on. I've seen former players ask for $100 a week to come on. I had one insider once tell me he wanted $300 a week in order to come on. So this is a real thing. This is a way people in our business make money, doing weekly radio spots. Bob came on every week for free. Phil Perry comes on every week for free. Buster Olney comes on every week for free. Our insiders are doing it because they love our station. They love our listeners. They love our area. And I think that is really freaking cool. And that is never going to be lost on me. Okay, again, I worked in Albany. We had Adam Schefter on every week. Every Wednesday. At the beginning of my career, I got to talk to Adam Schefter every single week. $250 a week for 10 minutes. And look, someone sponsored it and it got paid, and that's great. And it was awesome for me. But it was $250 or we could not have Adam Schefter on. And we had to go to a painstaking effort to try to get somebody to pay for that interview so that we could do it. And Bob comes on for free. And that, to me, is it will never be lost on me. It will never be lost on me. All Bob got for coming on with us was a care package of beer from First Republic Brewing in Essex that, I helped him get, or I helped get to him over the Christmas holiday. That was it. And he didn't even ask for that. I just was like, I can't have you on every week and give you nothing. So we give you some Vermont craft beer. And awesome stuff. Bob is one of the best and one of my favorites. And I'm going to miss talking to him. I'm sad the Patriots season is over, but we'll look forward to doing it again in the off season for sure, maybe around draft time. It is the Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. UVM men's basketball will take on UMass Lowell tomorrow, and they're coming off their first league loss against New Hampshire on Sunday. Here is what worries me about UVM. They don't have something they can lean on. They don't have something they can go to when the times get rough. Like typically when a team is struggling in any sport, when a team has issues, they decide to step back and lean into their identity. They recognize the one thing they do well and they lean into that one thing. The problem for UVM, they don't have that identity. They don't have that one thing they do really well. And therefore, they don't have anything to fall back on. And that's what worries me. And that's what bothers me about this team. And that's why this league season, well, again, they can win it. It is going to be a struggle. The Cats can't just rely on defense. They don't play it well enough. They can't just rely on getting up and down the court. They can't get out in transition well enough. They can't just rely on outside shooting. They don't do that well enough. They can't just rely on the inside game and throwing it down to the post. They don't have guys that can do that. They are kind of iffy at everything. And I like when teams have a calling card and when teams have an identity, and this team doesn't. And that's why this is going to be a struggle for them. They have the ability. They have good players. Again, they can win this league, but it feels like it's going to be a labor and a chore to do it without that one thing to count on. And I think every single game for this team is going to be a vastly different story. And that's what happens when you have a bunch of things that are inconsistent. One day, they'll probably win a game 81-78. One day, they'll probably win a game 78-50. One day, they'll probably win a game 58-57. And one day, they'll probably lose one like they did the other day where they kind of got dominated throughout. That's just kind of who this team is. There's nothing that feels consistent about them. One day they'll have 4 in double figures. One day they'll have 1. One day they'll shoot 60% from 3. One day they'll shoot 16% from 3. There's nothing consistent about this squad. And because of that, there's not that one thing to lean on. And that's a tough place to be. Okay, love him or hate him, Bryant just says, look, we're going to lean into our offense. That is what we're going to do. And that's all we're going to do. You see other teams that say, okay, we're just going to feed the post. We're just going to bully you down there. We're just going to back you down. Not how this team works. It's not how this team is wired. Again, they can win the league, but it's going to be a struggle in order to do it. Here's what John Becker needs to do as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, John Becker needs to go to his veterans and he needs to impart to them that he needs more from them. If you're asking what is the way to turn this season around, or not even, they're 2-1 in the league. I don't want to overreact to one loss, but if you're asking for what can you do to get this season going on the upswing and keep positive momentum going, if you're asking about that, then John Becker needs to go to his veterans and say, hey, we need more from you. There's been a lot of turnover on this roster. You lost 4 starters from a year ago. I get it. But you look at this Catamount roster, you are relying on a lot of veteran players, and this team needs to get production from them. Robin Duncan is a 5th-year senior. Finn Sullivan is a 5th-year senior. Dylan Penn is a 5th-year senior. I believe that Cam Gibson is a 5th-year senior. Matt Veretto was probably the oldest player on this roster. Aaron Deloney is a 4th-year player on this team. While not all of these guys had starring roles a year ago, They're all vets that can be counted on and can be relied upon, and that this team absolutely needs. Okay, John Becker needs to find a way to press the urgency button for these guys. He needs them to carry this roster. This team can't afford to get 6 points on back-to-back nights from Dylan Penn. It can't afford a 0-0 burger from Finn Sullivan like they did against Bryant. They can't have that. These veterans need to take ownership, and these veterans need to take over as far as I'm concerned. Okay, I can't depend on, Finn got 0, but TJ Hurley, the freshman, is going to get 14, or Dylan Penn gets 6, and Perry Smith Jr. is going to get 12 to make up for it. That's not going to happen. That's not how this team is built. That's not how this team is wired. This team is a veteran team still with some nice youthful pieces. The veterans have to take ownership. They have to demand the ball. They have to get to the basket. They have to carry this thing. And John Becker has to find a way to push those buttons. Now, I asked Coach Brennan earlier today how he can push those buttons, and hear what he said.
Well, obviously, every guy is different. You know me, I loved him up. That's my thing. I was I was everybody's crazy uncle. Whatever your relationship is with that guy, that's what you got to do. I mean, you got to convince him that this is what we need from you. I know John has done that, or certainly tried to do that. I'm never in those meetings with him, obviously, but who understands it more than him? I don't think you and I, we're all sitting around talking about it for sure, but he's the guy that's living it, and he's the guy that put it all together.
Yeah, he knows these guys, and he's got to find a way to get them, again, to hit that urgency button. That is what I want. That is what they need. Because this team can't survive getting 6 from Penn and 0 from Finn Sullivan. Those are preseason all-conference players that have been wildly inconsistent, and they need them to be better than that, and they need them to be much more consistent. The Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line is open, 802-585-3026. Tom over in Heinsberg. Brady, what is wrong with Dylan Penn? He was supposed to be this team's best player. Well, Tom, I don't think anything is wrong with Dylan Penn, okay? I don't think anything is wrong with him. But I wonder how much of all of this is about mindset. I've wondered that for a while. Dylan Penn is a new guy, right? He's a new player. He's coming into a place that is very, very established, where kind of the hierarchy is established, right? Robin Duncan is here, and Aaron Deloney is here, and Cam Gibson was here, and Finn was here. And I just wonder, does Dylan Penn not want to step on toes? Does he say, look, Vermont has a system, it has a culture, it has guys that have been here. I don't want to come in and take all the shots. I don't want to come in and force things. I don't want to come in and force the issues. So I don't think anything is wrong with Dylan Penn physically, and I don't think we were sold a bad bill of goods on Dylan Penn. He is a very talented player. And this team needs him to be that guy. And now I think, look, we're almost 20 games into the season. I don't need him now to worry about ruffling feathers. I need him to take over. I need Dylan Penn to take over, but I need all the veterans to take ownership and be willing to take over. And for Dylan Penn to say, give me the rock, I'm getting 18 today. For Deloney to say, give me the rock, I'm getting 16 today. For Robin Duncan to say, give me the ball, I'm getting double figures today. This can't just be, okay, we're going to wait for somebody else to do it. These guys are old enough players. They've played enough basketball. They know what this team needs, and this team needs them to be consistent. Danny in Essex says, different for Dylan Penn, or for Coach Becker, rather. He doesn't usually have a ball-dominant guard. Maybe Penn doesn't want to be ball-dominant. Well, look, Dylan Penn I don't think is that kind of player. I thought he was initially, that he was a ball-dominant player, but he's not. So I think that's fair. But this team has had ball-dominant players, right? Like Trey Bell Haynes was a ball-dominant player. He was a great point guard. This team needed him, and they needed him to, he was a point guard in every sense of the word. This team doesn't really have that. They kind of have interchangeable guards. And, That's okay to not have a ball-dominant guy. But your veterans have to find a way to make plays. They have to find a way to make plays. It is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Trevor Story is out indefinitely for the Red Sox with a elbow issue, right? He had elbow surgery. Chaim Bloom says, I'm not sure, basically, if he'll be back at all in 2023. For me, there are 3 options for the Red Sox, and that is it. Okay, this is a dire situation right now for the Red Sox. Dire. Okay, they've lost Xander Bogaerts. They've lost Trevor Story. Their middle infield right now is gutted. To me, there are only 3 options, and one of them stands out way above the rest. The thing they need to do is they need to trade for Ha-Sung Kim of the San Diego Padres. That's the guy. Okay, before you go scouring free agent markets and you go scouring the trade market, just look no further, because that's the guy. Ha-Sung Kim, that's who the Red Sox need to be going after. If they want to compete in 2023 like they tell us, Ha-Sung Kim is the guy that they need. Now, he's played professionally for a long time in Korea. He's a very good player. Last year, he hit .251 with a .325 on-base percentage for the Padres. He had 11 homers. He had 29 doubles. He doesn't strike out. He stole 12 bases. He plays very good defense. He's only 27 years old. And the Padres don't really need him anymore. The Padres got Bogaerts. They've got Fernando Tatis Jr. coming back. They've got Jake Cronenworth. The Padres are loaded. They've got a glut of players. Ha-Sung Kim is dispensable for them and is available for the Red Sox. And the Red Sox need to make that move. He's not expensive. He's only owed $17 million over the next 2 years. I would put him at shortstop, and I would call it a day. I would play Christian Arroyo at second, and I would play Kim at shortstop, and I would go from there. That is the number one move. You don't have Trevor Story maybe for the season, go get Ha-Sung Kim. If you get Story back, then great. You can put Kim at second, and you can put Arroyo back all over the field. You could put Story at short. You could put Kim at second. You could put Arroyo back, being the super utility guy. That's the best move. Ha-Sung Kim is the call that Chaim Bloom should make. If he doesn't make that call, you're left with a couple of really unappealing options. One, Christian Arroyo starts at second, and you sign Elvis Andrus or Jose Iglesias to play shortstop. Kike in center, Elvis Andrus or Jose Iglesias at short, and Christian Arroyo at second. That's kind of the second of my 3 choices. And the last one is Kike at second, Arroyo at short, and you're re-bringing back Jackie Bradley Jr. to play center. That one I don't like at all. That plan I do not like at all. Arroyo's only got 28 games at short. I don't like JBJ's bat. I want to keep Kike at I want to keep Kike in center. I don't love that plan. So number one without Trevor Story, Ha-Sung Kim in a trade. I think he can be had for not that much. The Padres want to shed a little bit of money. The Padres want to recoup some farm system value, and the Padres want to get something for Kim. So Ha-Sung Kim is number 1 on the trade market for me. Number 2 is sign Elvis Andrus or Jose Iglesias. And number 3 in a distant third is, putting Kike at second and then getting a new outfielder. What's in Worcester, the text line says? Not much. I mean, really, not much. The Red Sox don't have anything that they can use in the middle infield, right? Like, the only thing you could do is put Kike at short or second and Arroyo at short or second and keep Jarren Duran in center. I have no interest in that. After what I saw a year ago, I have no interest in that. I mean, you have Marcelo Meyer, who you're going to have in a couple of years. He's not ready to play right now. So he needs to get all the seasoning he can. He's never even been in Double-A, as I'm remembering here. Ha-Sung Kim, that's the answer. That is the best answer if you want to compete. If you want to tank, then go sign Jose Iglesias and let him hit 226. But I would rather at least make a run at this thing is unlikely as it seems. We'll talk to Tom Caron of Nesson tomorrow on the Brady Farkas Show, and we will kind of get his thoughts on everything. Before I went on vacation and before I got sick, one of our listeners told me, Brady, I wish Dan Campbell was the head coach of the New England Patriots. I've had 2.5 weeks to think about this. And after seeing Dan Campbell the other day, I don't wish that he was the head coach of the Patriots, but I wish the Patriots had a little bit of Dan Campbell on their staff. I'll explain why next, right here on WDEV, AM and FM. Remember, high school basketball coming up at about 6:45.
Everyone starts their home projects in spring, but let me let you in on a secret. January is the perfect time to kick off your solar. Hi, Tara from Green Mountain Solar. We always see a big rush of people interested in solar once the warm weather hits, but then they wait for their appointment and install. When you start now, you're setting yourself up to capture as many sunny days in 2023 as possible. At Green Mountain Solar, we strive for the best solar experience in Vermont, starting with a free in-person site visit. Nothing beats the level of service you get from a real person coming out to assess your home or business. When we come out to you, we learn more about your unique property and energy needs. We're right there to answer all of your questions and ask about heat pumps, batteries, and EV chargers. Green Mountain Solar wants to help meet all your energy efficiency needs. Our partnership with Efficiency Vermont provides additional value to our customers. Get a head start on your solar goals this winter by going to greenmtnsolar.com.
As Vermonters, we know that so much depends on the weather. When you need a reliable local weather forecast, it's literally at your fingertips with the WDEV weather phone. Locally dial 244-1172 or toll free at 1-800-585-1211. Roger Hill's weather forecast is just a phone call away on the WDEV weather phone, 244-1172 or 1-800-585-1211.
WDEV is sending a lucky winner to the Daytona 500 this February, and it could be you. Prize includes a 5-day, 4-night trip with round-trip airfare, hotel accommodations, $500 in spending money, and tickets to the Daytona 500. Sign up for your chance to win at the following locations.
The Great Outdoors, Northgate Plaza, Morrisville. Hayes Ford, Main Street in Newport. Leo Small Engines, Route 15, Morrisville. Two Sons Bakehouse, Main Street, Hyde Park. And Paris Auto, Brooklyn Street, Morrisville.
Tickets to the Daytona 500, 5-day, 4-night hotel accommodations, and $500 in cash. Sign up today. No purchase necessary. Contest rules and details available at WDEVradio.com. Sponsored in part by Milne Travel American Express.
New England Municipal Resource Center, NEMRIC, with a belief that local businesses like WDEV build strong communities. Whatever your interest, sports.
It would be monumental if they could come away with 2 wins, right?
Current events.
Vermonters are very used to a serious, deliberate budget process.
Weather.
Now, typically, El Niños and La Niñas have generally a weaker effect.
WDEV has a podcast for you. Locally produced podcasts of our own shows and podcasts from our partners at CBS and ESPN. To access the full listing of podcasts, go to our website at WDEVradio.com.
Want Brady to hear your opinion on the sports stories of the day? Text in at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in. Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. High school basketball coming up after us. On the girls' side, it's People's Academy and Montpelier. Our show is brought to you in part by Pro Driver Training. That's Pro Driver Training, Vermont's premier truck driver training school, online at prodrivercdl.com. And I want to finish here today. I wish that the New England Patriots coaching staff had a little bit of Dan Campbell in it. Before the holidays, Ross, one of our listeners, said that he wished that Dan Campbell was the coach of the Patriots. And we talked about that, and we talked about coaching styles and leadership styles and everything. And now, 3 weeks later, 3 weeks have passed since that initial message. And you know what? I think Ross was on to something. This Patriots team in 2022 could have really benefited from having a little Dan Campbell in its coaching room. That does not mean that I want Dan Campbell over Bill Belichick. It does not mean that Dan Campbell is a better coach than Bill Belichick. But what it does mean is this, that Dan Campbell's coaching style, that there's room for that in the NFL. There's room for that in a professional locker room. And I believe that that style would have really resonated with the 2022 Patriots. I mean, listen, after the Lions beat the Packers in that game that didn't mean anything on Sunday Night Football, the Lions put out the video of Dan Campbell's post-game conversation with the team on social media. Listen to part of this post-game after a game that didn't matter. Here was Dan Campbell to his team.
To do what you guys did, it shows the character of this team and what you're about. We didn't doubt it at all. Right. Coaches didn't doubt it at all. You guys didn't doubt it.
Hell no.
And the schedule makers, the whole deal, Seattle, you guys didn't even bat an eye. You came out there and you respect, and you did that. You earned your respect today. Man, I couldn't be more proud. These coaches couldn't be more proud. That's right. I mean, God, do you understand? When I say this is a special group, this is a special group. And by the way, this is just the beginning. Yes, sir. This is just the beginning. Yeah.
Just listen to that. That's 30 seconds of about a 3-minute video. You know what that is there? That's love from a coach to a team. That's buy-in from a group of men to their leader. That's love, that's belief, that's heart. And that's something that this Patriots team, I believe, would have really benefited from. Now, look, not every team would respond to that style. Not every team has the personnel that would respond to that style. I get it. But it did work for the Lions, and it would have worked for the Patriots. Unfortunately, though, Bill Belichick, Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, the leadership group of the Patriots, they're not really wired that way. And that's disappointing because that style is exactly what this team needed. And you know why it would have worked? Because that style, that belief, that love, that really works when you have a team full of youth and when you have a team full of guys with something to prove. And the Patriots have that. Why does Dan Campbell work in Detroit? Why does his style fit that team? Because it's a Lions team with a lot of young players. It's a Lions team with a lot of really young players. Dan Campbell provides those young players support and love like a really good college coach does. It's a very collegiate mindset. And those guys who are young and just in college, they respond to that. But you know who else responds to that? Guys who have been beaten down in their career and they need a little propping up, like a Jared Goff. Okay, Dan Campbell's the perfect coach for Jared Goff. Sean McVay kicked him to the curb. And Dan Campbell said, come here. I want you. I'll put my arm around you. I'll believe in you. I'll stand up for you publicly with the media. And then afterwards, we'll come to the locker room and we'll have a giant powwow and talk about it. That Dan Campbell works for Jared Goff. He's out to prove something. He needed someone to believe in him, and Dan Campbell did, and he showed him what he needed. Pete Carroll's the same way in Seattle. It worked for him. Why? Young team starting 5 draft picks this year, a team full of discarded players, a team that was told they can't win without Russell Wilson, a quarterback in Geno Smith who was thrown to the scrap heap. Pete Carroll's style works for that team. I don't think that Bill Belichick should be Pete Carroll, but I wish that the Patriots staff had a little bit of that in them. I wish that it had a little bit of that in them. And because this team needed it. And Mac Jones, above all else, he needed it. Do you think that Mac Jones really responded well this season to all of Bill Belichick's psychoanalysis and all of Bill Belichick's tests and all of his cryptic things to the media? Because I don't. You know what I think Mac Jones needed? I think Mac Jones needed a coach to put his arm around him and say, you know what? You're my guy. I believe in you. I trust you. We're going to do this together. And that's what Detroit had. And that's what Seattle had. That's what Jared Goff got. That's what Geno Smith got. And that's what I think Mac Jones needed. And it's unfortunate that he didn't get it. I think Mac Jones's confidence was toyed with all season long. I think his emotions were toyed with all season long. And I don't think he responded well. I think he ended up playing scared a large portion of the middle of the year. And I think he would have benefited from a coach who had his back. And the way that Dan Campbell had his back, or the way that, or had Jared Goff's back, or the way that Pete Carroll had Geno Smith's back. So Ross, our listener, I'm with you. I don't think that Dan Campbell is the guy for the Patriots. But a little bit of that would have gone a long way for this team. And unfortunately, the Pats coaching staff just isn't wired that way. Just isn't wired that way. Zach in Rutland, don't you think the Patriots have too many veterans? You mentioned that style working for youthful teams. Aren't there too many vets and too many high-paid guys? Would the Pats really have bought into that? The Patriots do have veterans, and they do have veterans that make money, but they have veterans with something to prove also. And as I said, guys with something to prove, I think they play well when they're shown some love, when they're shown some belief. Jonnu Smith came into this year with a ton to prove. Nelson Aguilar came in with a ton to prove. Devontae Parker had a ton to prove. Jacoby Myers had to prove that he's a guy who can go out and earn a contract. Trent Brown came in with something to prove. So did Isaiah Wynn, Josh Uche, Jawan Bentley. They all did. The true veterans on this team, like Adrian Phillips and Matthew Slater and Devin McCourty, I think they would have loved that kind of culture. I do. I do believe that. And the other guys who might not be their cup of tea, I think they would have come around if the team was winning. I don't know that Jalen Mills or Matt Judon would have loved it. But if the team was winning, then they would have. But the guys on this team would have benefited from having their arms put around them rather than being tested constantly, like Mac Jones. I really hope that people around the NFL see Dan Campbell in a different light now, because I bought in from day one. Okay, everybody's thought, oh, this is kind of a caricature. He's a wrestling type, bite off the kneecaps, etc. People thought Dan Campbell was a buffoon. I never saw it that way. I bought in right away. There's room in the NFL for the stodgy veteran, but I also think there's room in the NFL for a coach who talks about his players and who loves his players. And teams talk about family all the time, but Dan Campbell, I think, really preaches it and really believes it. And I do think that that's special. I don't think this coaching style would have worked for Tom Brady. I don't think it would work for Aaron Rodgers. It's not for every team at every stage of their development. But for a young team or a cast-off team that needs a little bit of TLC, I think Dan Campbell is perfect. Patriots had a lot of youth. Mac, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, they're all on rookie contracts. They're all on rookie contracts. I think they all could have benefited from a little bit of something. Okay, in Seattle, Pete Carroll, look, Quandre Diggs makes a lot of money. DK Metcalf makes a lot of money. They bought in. Now, maybe it's because the team's winning, but that could have happened in New England. That could have happened in New England. Absolutely, no doubt in my mind. It is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. We will have a ton more on the Patriots throughout the course of the week, right? Keyshawn Johnson saying that Mac isn't the guy. We're going to talk about that. Bob Socci talking about the Patriots in the draft. We're going to talk about that. We got a bunch of stuff on, the coaching the potential coaching ripple effect in New England. I think there's a lot of stuff here on the Patriots. And as we continue to kind of put a postmortem on this season, there's going to be even more that comes out. Tomorrow, we're going to be able to talk a lot about Trevor Story, more of Trevor Story. We'll talk about it with Tom Caron. He'll be with us tomorrow. We'll also talk with Freddie Coleman tomorrow as well. Not much of a national championship game yesterday in college football. Georgia just rolled TCU. And look, it's not expected that Georgia won. It's not unexpected that Georgia won. It's not unexpected that Georgia rolled them 65-7. Nobody had that, though, right? If you told me that Georgia was going to win 50-28, I wouldn't have been shocked. 45-21, I wouldn't have been shocked. Double-digit victory, 3-touchdown victory wouldn't have shocked me winning by 58. That was a commanding victory in Georgia now with their rightful spot at the top of the sport. As for things you should care about in that game draft-wise for the Patriots, Stetson Bennett is an interesting prospect. Looks like a borderline drafted player or a undrafted free agent. I could see the Patriots giving a guy like that a look. Doesn't mean he'll unseat Mack or Bailey Zappi, but I could see him being around the Patriots at some point. So that will follow that. The tight end Bowers for Georgia is phenomenal. Jalen Carter, the defensive end for Georgia, is a guy who could be the top overall pick in the draft. We'll see. The Bears have the number 1 pick right now, so we'll see how things look with him. But a lot of talent on that field yesterday. Just most of it was wearing red. In addition to Trevor Story, he's not the only big shortstop news today. Carlos Correa signs a 6-year, $200 million deal with the Minnesota Twins, which is a team he was with a year ago. So it is the end of a wild saga for Carlos Correa, right? 13-year deal with the Giants. The medicals fall through. He gets a 12-year deal from the Mets. The medicals fall through, and now he's going to go back to Minnesota and get a 6-year deal worth $200 million. It can go up to $270. It's good for the Twins. It's good for parity of baseball. If you don't like all your stars signing with the Mets, it leaves more cash in Steve Cohen's pocket to go get Ohtani next offseason, but such is life. I'm happy to see Correa go back to the Twins. I think that's good for baseball to see a star, stay with a small market team or stay with a mid-market team and not necessarily always end up with the highest bidder. I wish that, I wish the Red Sox had gotten in on this because you knew about the Story injury. You knew it was going to cost him real time. Why didn't you go out and try to make the same deal with Carlos Correa? Maybe they didn't want damaged goods with Correa in the way that they have damaged goods apparently with Story. So we'll see. Lots of good stuff tomorrow. We'll talk about with Tom Karen again. Also Freddie Coleman tomorrow as well. All right, we are going to get ready to ship you out to high school basketball. We're going to send you to Montpelier, the home of the Solons, where People's Academy is coming to town on the girls' side. We're minutes away from Brent Curtis with our coverage here on your home for high school basketball. WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. The Brady Farkas Show podcast channel will be updated momentarily with today's full show. My full talk as well with Patriots broadcaster Bob Socci and former UVM hoops coach Tom Brennan. See you tomorrow, everybody. Enjoy high school hoops here on the EV.
Hi, I'm Matt with Matt Clark's Northern Basement Systems. If you have a wet basement, moldy crawl space, or settling foundation and need an effective solution, we do all things basementing. Basement waterproofing, basement insulation, basement structural repair, and nasty crawl spaces too. Matt Clark's Northern Basement Systems has you covered. We offer free estimates, so for all things